Just the vibe right now in Brooklyn as more voters head to the polls. Like I said, this has already been record turnout in early voting. But what are you seeing on the ground now?
Yeah, you know, if you look at the early voting tallies, the neighborhood, one of the neighborhoods that voted in the highest numbers was Windsor Terrace, which is not too far from where I'm standing. Definitely a liberal or center-left stronghold in the Democratic voting base in this city. And they will be a crucial part of deciding who wins today's election. Now, I talked to Zohran Mamdani earlier this morning just about what he felt as it relates to what would be a mandate, right? You know, right now, the latest polling has him at about a 10-point difference between the independent in this race, Andrew Cuomo, and 11 points with Curtis Sliwa. And he told me any victory is a mandate. A very confident statement from a 34-year-old assembly member who heads into tonight as the clear front runner in this race. This race has been defined by generational and ideological divides, and of course the late-breaking twist of Donald Trump making that endorsement towards Andrew Cuomo. Will it have a measurable difference, or will it make a difference in this race? That remains to be seen, specifically because it was such a late endorsement, and then Cuomo also said that it wasn't an endorsement because Trump didn't call him, so it wasn't really an endorsement. But Trump is saying that if Mamdani is to take office, what that would mean is that he would not send any funds.
I mean, it's been happening for weeks, Myles. If you look at Donald Trump's Truth Social account or his Twitter feed, it is flooded with endorsements for Cuomo, begging voters not to vote for Sliwa. He's been trying to push Eric Adams out of the race for weeks now. And it's very clear that the entire MAGA machine is behind Andrew Cuomo. And it's also interesting that this is someone who left Albany in disgrace, right? Let's not forget the allegations of sexual impropriety that pushed him out. He had to resign his position as governor. Why would New Yorkers then vote him into arguably a more important job?
Yeah, it's important to note that there was contrition, right? Like, if we think back to 2021, there was a very contrite Governor Andrew Cuomo, you know, apologizing for what he's done. But now in 2025, he seems to have done a complete, 180 on that, and is saying that they found no wrongdoing, that the 5 DAs found no wrongdoing. But he did leave office because he didn't want it to be a distraction. But when you get down to the brass tacks of it, the big sort of divide here is a candidate in Zohran Mamdani who is pitching populist ideas that he thinks can get funded at a certain point that will lead New Yorkers to a more affordable New York. And then Andrew Cuomo, who is doing basically the typical Democratic talking points: more cops for a safer New York, not to close Rikers Island, but to come up with a new plan on that.
And more cops is a Democratic talking point?
With tax increases.
I feel like the Democrats have gone recently the other way. I mean, I remember Bill de Blasio, right? And Eric Adams didn't exactly clean up the streets either from crime. It's just fascinating to me that the big money has gotten behind Cuomo, as well as the MAGA Republican movement, all because of this fear that Mamdani will somehow turn this city into a centrally controlled communist economy. Is it really likely, Myles, and you've covered New York politics for so long, you understand the ins and outs of how things work at City Hall and with City Council, that Mamdani, even if he were, full-blooded Marxist communist, could really push through policies that mean taxing everybody from the middle class up to pay for the poorest people?
The one thing, and I worked for the last, I would say, pretty left-wing mayor in this city, Bill de Blasio. And the one thing you have to know is that if you run for mayor of New York City, you could be far right or far left. You're going to have to come to the middle because this is a consensus city. You're going to have to work with the city council to get these things done. The first shot I saw today that Mamdani took against that liberal city council that has been backing him was to say for rezoning, that's been a big issue in the city. This park would not have been built without for rezoning. He said, you know what, the mayor, the city council speaker, and the borough president should have a say in rezoning legislation and rezoning applications, not just city council members. That's the reason why there's not a lot of affordable housing in this city. And so he's going to have to strike that balance. But in order to get anything done in New York, you need the city council, you need the support of the state legislature and the governor, and you need the business community. And he's been making some inroads with the business community. You saw that with him saying he'd keep Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner. But back to what you were saying about crime, you say what you want about Eric Adams. Crime numbers have continued to go down in the city and across the country. But, Eric Adams has done quite something on crime with the teams in the subways and all of that. So you have to look at that history too. That crime is going down, and that Mamdani, while he doesn't want to add cops, is saying that what he'll do for crime is to keep this police commissioner who he thinks has been doing a good job on crime and also rooting out corruption in the police department.